Time now for some business news. Stephen Carroll is with me in studio. Stephen, we're going to start with the latest on that trade war between the world's two biggest economies.
That's right. China's Premier Li says that global support is needed for free trade as his country plunges deeper into a trade war with the United States. Li was speaking after Beijing announced tariffs on $60 billion worth of American imports. That in retaliation to Washington's imposition of tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods. The Chinese Premier says trade disputes need to be worked out through consultation, while Donald Trump says that he's ready to tax even more Chinese goods. Alison Sargent has the latest.
Calling for global support as the tariff showdown continues. China's premier made an appeal to the international community to uphold the basic principle of free trade, while promising to improve his own country's conditions for foreign companies.
We will make sure that all companies, be they Chinese or foreign-owned, so long as they are registered in China, will be treated as equals.
The Premier's comments come after China announced it would raise tariffs on $60 billion worth of American imports. A retaliation to the latest White House announcement that $200 billion worth of Chinese imports will see a 10% tax starting next week, and jumping to 25% at the start of the new year.
You have to do something about it. We are the piggy bank to the world.
Donald Trump is now threatening to hit another $267 billion worth of Chinese goods with a 25% tax. If he goes through with it, it would mean nearly all of China's goods will have fallen victim to tax hikes, a source of anxiety for Chinese consumers.
It's definitely not a good thing. The opposition between the two countries isn't good.
Ever since Trump became president, his policies towards China haven't been friendly.
Meanwhile, in the U.S., the country's Commerce Secretary has downplayed the impact on American shoppers, saying that it will be too spread out to be felt. But analysts warn that every new wave of tariffs draws closer to consumers, with items like bicycles, baseball mitts, and some electronics, all on the $200 billion list that takes effect next week.
Well, now let's take a look at how that's affecting the markets. And we're seeing something that began yesterday, which was Asian shares rising after details of those tariffs were announced, essentially because they weren't as bad as some people had expected. That trend continuing today in Asia. We can see the Shanghai Composite and the Hang Seng in Hong Kong both up over 1%, so somewhat of a relief for investors there. That's despite a survey of Asian companies showing confidence is at a 3-year low because of the fears over the trade war. Over in Europe today, we're not seeing that trend quite carried out into trading in Europe today. Most markets opening flat, just nudging into the green on London's FTSE 100. In Denmark, shares in Danske Bank have opened down 5%. Its CEO has resigned after saying the bank was unable to estimate how much money was laundered through its Estonian branch. On the currency markets, a euro buying $1 and just under 17 cents, while always 89 pence sterling.
Meanwhile, the US Department of Justice has begun an investigation into the electric car maker Tesla.
The inquiry centres on tweets by CEO Elon Musk in which he claimed he'd secured funding to take the company private. Now, the company says it's received a voluntary request from the DOJ for documents relating to that. Tesla is already facing an investigation from the US markets regulator as well as private lawsuits from investors. Shares in Tesla had jumped after Musk wrote that he'd secured money to take the company off the public market, but he has later abandoned that plan.
Meanwhile, the former head of the American theme park group SeaWorld has settled claims that he misled investors.
James Atchison will pay $1 million to settle charges that he wasn't upfront about the impact that a documentary would have on the theme park's business. The film Blackfish examined the fate of orcas in captivity. That led to the Securities and Exchange Commission accusing Mr. Atchison of lying about the damage from the film to SeaWorld's business, as they had seen a drop in visitors.
Finally, Stephen, for you for this update, Facebook is facing legal action in the US over ads for jobs.
The American Civil Liberties Union has claimed the social network is allowing employers to discriminate against women through its advertising. The complaint refers to 3 women in Ohio, Pennsylvania and Illinois who weren't shown ads for jobs on Facebook because the employer had targeted men of a certain age. The ACLU says that's discriminatory and wants Facebook to prevent job ads that only target one gender. The social network says discrimination is strictly prohibited in its policies and that it looks forward to reviewing the details of the complaint.
I think we all look forward to their review of that complaint. I can see Diptika's face fell with mine. Stu and Carl, thanks a lot for that business update. It is now